Hey everyone. Please support what I do to help keep Greyhawk alive by subscribing to the channel. Also, please consider becoming a channel member to get early access to videos, exclusive live chats, quarterly adventure modules, and more. Thanks, and enjoy the show. I was thinking about one of my favorite deities in the world of Greyhawk who's never actually been fully described, and that's who we're going to talk about today on Greyhawk Ragnard. So ever since I first read The Hidden Shrine of Tamoachan way back when, I was always fascinated by one of the deities that was named Stern Alia, um, and comes out of the module, and she doesn't have any role in the module itself. She only comes up in the background of one of the pre-generated PCs that's supposed to be used because it's a competition module. But it was a fascinating and really evocative description that they gave of this deity that had never been noted before in Greyhawk, which is actually par for the course for Hidden Shrine of Tamoachan. At some point, I'll do a full video on it and get into that. But like all of the Olmen deities, um, never appeared in the world of Greyhawk before this module, and they're actually Earth deities. So, but we'll get into that. But Stern Alia, it was a creation by Harold Johnson and Jeff Leeson for this module, and it's worth reading. Mira, who's the PC, is from the city of Pontilver, which is a loyal daughter to the Sea of Medegia, where she was a cleric in the lawful neutral temple of the correct and unalterable way. Mira had always been faithful and obedient, following the orders of her superiors and competently completing all tasks. Her good service was noted, and she rose in levels within the church, assuming more difficult tasks as her power and skill increased. Always she was firm and faithful in her allegiance to Stern Alia, goddess of the order. So Stern Alia here comes across as a sort of an Eastern Fultus, right? God of a deity of order and law and strictness and so forth. It's even in the name, Stern Alia. Eventually, a new archon mounted the throne in Pontilver, the one who claimed Alia as her patron, the temple of the correct and unalterable way, grew in followers and prestige. And as time passed, Mira noticed that her peers and superiors were becoming increasingly arrogant and arbitrary. Their pronouncements came to be regarded as law, and they began to see themselves as the ultimate arbiters of justice. Mira saw that they were falling into the heresy of believing that law is concentrated in the individual and not the community. Investigating, she found a well-kept secret. Many members of the ecclesiarchy, which is a great word, were no longer able to cast high-level spells, thus proving their estrangement from their deity. At last, Mira attempted to speak out against the heterodox clergy and reveal their fall from divine grace. The forces of I just lost my place here. But the forces of the ecclesiarchs prevented her from doing so, and she was fortunate to escape the city of her with her life. So that's all we get about this deity, and it raises a lot of interesting ideas. First of all, it cements in my mind the notion that um, the worship of Hextor is predominant in the Sea of Medegia, which is here on the map. Um, because later on, it's not mentioned here, but later on, and this is one thing that researching for this video, I can't figure out where the fact that she is the mother of um, Heironeous and Hextor comes from. I want to say that it was a fan invention way back when in the old AOL days. Some fan or fans had come up with this connection, um, and it just kind of stuck because, as far as I've ever known, Sternalia was the mother of Heironeous and Hextor, and it's certainly been cemented in the lore. It shows up in all the books and everything where they talk about Heironeous or Hextor. They mention that they're the children of Sternalia, but it's just very very weird that I can't find where that was first where that first came from. I mean, chronologically, I guess Bastion of Faith was the first place, but I know it was there long before that. Um, but it also tells us that the faith of Stern Alia was who's lawful neutral because the cleric character is lawful neutral. Um, is openly practiced in Medegia, which is unusual for an ecclesiastical state, and it kind of this implies that the archon, who I guess later on would be replaced by Spideza, the the head of Medegia, um, who is loyal to Hextor. But we see that there's, it is possible for somebody who is not a cleric of Hextor to come to power in Medegia, which is kind of extraordinary in an ecclesiastical theocracy, essentially. So it's just kind of an interesting thing, and the fact that they are related. Literally, the two deities are related would explain, at least help explain, how that could happen. The way I approach the three of them, Heironeous, Hextor, and Alia, is that they are worshipped as kind of a holy family, right? Where people will be individuals will worship one or the other of the two brothers and the mother, but but they're viewed kind of on a mythological basis as a holy family in the same way that you see, like Zeus is the father of Apollo or Odin is the father of Thor, that kind of thing. So, so it's on a mythological level, they're seen as part of a family. And it's also interesting to note that Stratis, who is the dead god of war, over in the chainmail, the Fallen Empire setting, which is on the far western shore of Oerth, and is said to be one of the children of Stern Alia. So you have this wonderful symmetry where you have Heironeous as the lawful good son, Stratus as the lawful neutral son, and Hextor as the lawful evil son under this lawful neutral mother. So you've got this whole family notion that works out really, really well. I don't want to get too much into the other deities, but I love that idea. That she's kind of got this. Now you don't really see a lot of her. There's never an official write up of her. In the sense that we see in the gold box of some of the deities, or later on we see in various books, they give full write ups about the gods. You know, a 75th level this or a 36th level that, and as all these things. We never get a full write up of Stern Alia. I did one for 5e. It's available on my website, link below, as part of the Faiths of the Flaness book that I did. Um, but it was mostly my own invention because we don't really have a ton of information. We do have a few mentions here or there, and interestingly, they are often very contradictory. So, for example, in Bastion of Faith, which is, uh, I guess, a 3.x book, um, we have here Hextor reserves a particular animosity for Alia, an aspect of Alator, a Flan deity, whose cult was active in the Sea of Medegia before being destroyed by internal dissent and the clergy of the Champion of Evil. So that adds a little more to that story, where that it was possible for somebody who worships Stern Alia to come to power, but then once uh, that scandal hit that we read about in Tamoachan, then that was the opportunity that the forces of Hextor needed to wipe them out and assume total power. How, However, there's a lot in here that doesn't make a lot of sense. Um, Alia being an aspect of Alator um, doesn't make a lick of sense on a number of levels. First of all, Alator is a lawful good lawful good? A lawful good with neutral tendencies, flan and common god of ethics and propriety. Which you can kind of make, a tenuous association between that and the character of Stern Alia as we came to know her in Tamoachan. But him being a flan deity and both Hextor and Heironeous being Iridian deities, and thus by implication, so is Sternalia, doesn't make a lot of sense for them to be uh, the same, the same individual. Um, Plus the fact that we see that here it says that Hextor doesn't like Sternalia, and yet later on in other sources, for example, Polyhedron magazine, issue 163, where they go through some of the deities. Um, we have Hextor, Fist of Discord. Um, his allies are the followers of Sternalia. So right there, we've got a complete 180-degree disconnect. And we see these similar uh, disconnects in other places. I mean, we've got in the Living Greyhawk Journal, which I don't, as long-term followers of the channel will know, I don't count as uh, mainstream Greyhawk canon. I see it as an adjacent canon, but in this case, they do have Sternalia as an Iridian deity of culture, Iridian culture, law, and motherhood, lawful neutral with lawful evil tendencies. Um, and it just that's another they kind of go off in a different direction. We've got Dragon Magazine, um, uh, just some articles in Dragon Magazine kind of they give little mentions of Sternalia, but always in the context of oh, she's the mother of Hextor or Heironeous. There's a few brief mentions in later on when they're talking about the Sundered Empire setting. Um, but on the whole, it's there's not much meat on the bone there. And what we have, as you can see, is somewhat contradictory. I personally view her as an Iridian deity, as I said, with this Holy Family idea. I like the idea that that was what allowed them to kind of alternate or share power. I like the story we get of the two competing churches. And it's very possible maybe at one point they were allies and then they kind of flipped after that coup that the priesthood of Hextor uh, did to overthrow her in Mediggia. We also don't see any mentions of Sternalia outside of Mediggia, so it's very possible that it was sort of a local deity. Maybe that's where the and this all this is just pure speculation at the point. Maybe that's where the Flan connection comes in with Alator. I honestly think that the only reason they made that connection with Alator in the book was because of the similarity in names. I that it almost feels like a folk etymology, where they're connected because the names start with the same letters. But it's who knows? Maybe it's possible that there was um, a Flan local Flan deity in Medegia when the Iridians arrived, and he got kind of swapped into a she to map onto an Iridian deity. There's all kinds of messy things that happen in real world religion, and I love it. I love to imagine that they would happen in the world of Greyhawk too when you're talking about religion. The obvious difference being that there are gods in the world of Greyhawk who physically come down and interact with people, which doesn't really happen here much. So anyway, I've always been fascinated by this character. I think because we know so little about her in a canonical way, we only have a scattering of mentions. The most description we get is from the very first uh, uh, view we have of her, and that's mostly of her church rather than um, her as a deity, as an individual. So anyway, let me know what you think in the comments. I would love to hear if you've ever done anything with Stern Alia. Do take a look at my write up in the Face of the Flanas book on my website. And hope you're all having a wonderful, wonderful day. And I will talk to you all later.
Thanks for watching today's video. Please remember to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. Below you'll find links to my Patreon, which helps make these videos possible. You'll also find the web store where you can buy my books, and my blog where you'll find all sorts of free downloads and other articles. Thanks, and have a great day.